Up next, we have Dr. Louis Gyoh. Dr. Louis Gyoh is an environment scientist with over 20 years professional experience creating renewable and energy efficient programs and developing same in developing countries. Furthermore, he has designed a number of signature energy efficient residential buildings. He was also involved in the development of National Energy Building Code for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a project which was initiated by UN Habitat, European Union, and the Nigerian government. Dr. Gyoh is a double graduate from the University of Sheffield and also a graduate of the University of Cambridge. He has obtained a postgraduate diploma in professional architecture from the University of Westminster, London. He has worked under a number of EPSRC projects at the University of Sheffield on building integrated photoelectric systems. He has lectured extensively internationally and also at the Leicester School of Architecture at De Montfort University, UK. Dr. Lewis has a significant working experience in the UK AEC sector as a chartered architect and contract administrator. He is currently a principal lecturer HOD at the University of Wolverhampton, Faculty of Science and Engineering, School of Architecture and Built Environment. Today, Dr. Lewis will be presenting to us about AEC consultants and stakeholders in the current COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 emergency response measures introduced up to date are having an immediate impact for all parties involved in construction projects, current and prospective. Construction can be particularly vulnerable to the market instability and restrictions on labor, materials, and movement. The construction industry is only getting to grips with how the pandemic is going to affect work. The already complicated operations of construction site is becoming an even more complex and potentially impossible as project teams try to comply with the new emergency restrictions and health and safety measures. The measures in place are impacting on the progress of the works, arising in many ways from closure of sites as a lack of resources and or an interpretation of supply chain. A quick review of how cities might be designed in the future fight against pandemics will also be briefly explained in his talk. Over to you, Dr. Gyo.
Yes, my name is Louis Gyoh. I'm going to be giving you a presentation of in this seminar, and the title is AEC Consultants and in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's going to be all about a review of practical advice. I'm Dr. Louis Gyoh, as mentioned. I am from the School of Architecture and the Built Environment, Faculty of Science and Engineering, the University of Wolverhampton in the UK. So in this presentation, the scope of the presentation would include an introduction and a review to the response measures to COVID-19, and also we'll be looking at contracts. We'll also be looking at communication, risk registers, communicators and replacements of key communicators, the supply chain, and then lastly, we're going to do a quick review on the future plan of cities. The COVID-19 emergency response measures introduces up-to-date have had a tremendous impact on all parties involved in construction projects, current and also in the future projects. So construction can be particularly vulnerable to markets, as we all know, and unstable, and also it also does restrict labors, material, and movements, as is the case here, and I'm sure in India as well and other places. The construction industry is still getting to grips with how it is going to be affected by the pandemic. They are already, constructions already has a complicated operation, site operations, and this is becoming even more complex with the potentials of projects, the team trying to comply with emergency restriction, health and safety. This has compounded the problems. The measures in place are also impacting on progress of work that's currently going on. And we're also looking at ways in which to deal with these interruptions. At the construction sites, which have been rendered as providing essential services, which have to go on, have remained open during this COVID-19 situation, pandemic, and this has also imposed significant tasks on the management of these projects in terms of health and safety, and also enforcing the minimum so as not to risk the operatives on site, and also to prevent the spread of infection. There is also even greater risks now for project supervisors to ensure the health and safety of operators on sites. And the best ammunition there is in these times of uncertainty is the preparation. Preparation is the best. This is what we recommend to be prepared. Now let's look at contracts very quickly. Contracts, consultants, we may have the obligation to protect our clients' interests as well as our interests. Parties are advised at this particular time to look at the exact wordings of your appointment of your contracts now and also in the future for a number of reasons. First, to determine if there are any compensation or times available for claims, project completion dates. These may be adjusted and possibly agreed by way of a side letter to the existing contracts. And also there's also need to check the clauses that govern suspension and remobilization to site, and also to check the contractual insurance provisions if they are adequate for the current situation. With regards to contracts being negotiated since COVID-19 has come to light, I would like to note that some clauses provide for unforeseen events may no longer be effective moving forward, as COVID-19 delays are now foreseeable risks. So in the future, this will not be accepted as unforeseeable risk, as COVID-19 is now here with us, and the risks associated with COVID-19 are foreseeable. Contracts should also be renegotiated to enable off-site activities to continue, and also to provide for the construction phase to commence or continue after the restrictions have been lifted. So you could negotiate with your clients. If you continue to provide services, it is recommended that you communicate with all the subjects, all the stakeholders, and subject to the limitations in the agreement of the scope of your contract in accordance with the appropriate guidelines. So you need to notify your clients that you will carry on with the projects within the safety guidelines and so on. And these situations are dynamic. So given the closure of the sites, if you are appointed to carry out site inspections, it may be worthwhile notifying your client in writing that you may not be able to inspect the sites as there are current emergency restrictions in place, and that these will continue after the restrictions have been lifted. So you need to inform your clients in writing. If in doubt, you seek legal advice from your solicitors or your professional body. It's also important to keep alive all the ongoing contractual obligations, such as suspensions. Parties still have to comply with claims, notices, procedures in accordance with the administration of the contract. If you are administering a contract, you need to be alive of the potential claims that should ensure that all notices are received. So you make sure you get all notices are received, because at the end of this period, there will be a lot of claims. So you should make sure that you meet all the contractual obligations to notify. It's likely also that a lot of considerations are going to be given to claims arising out of the site shutdown. There's also likely going to be shortage of material and labor. So you need to maintain a continuous dialogue and communication with all key parties employed on the project. So collaborative knowledge and the viewpoint of all parties will help to provide a clearer understanding on the impact of the pandemic and how this might be potentially solved. Some of the problems might be solved. So a full disclosure upfront is also encouraged. It is recommended that you keep your clients and the contractors informed at all times. Then you have what you call the key groups or persons or groups that should be appointed to keep track of changes. So you should put people who are monitoring the changes, and these changes should be communicated to all staff and the clients. So if you have key persons on the contract who is administering the contract, such as the contract administrator, the foreman, and so on, if they become ill or they become infected, steps should be taken to replace them. It is important to ensure that all key persons are replaced and for the continuous effective communication to take place, as this is very important at this particular time. Insurance as well is quite important. You're all encouraged to contact your insurance brokers and to check your insurances, that the insurances are appropriate, and you have a safe security arrangements are in place since the sites are closed. So if you are contractors, you might still be responsible, and this has insurance implications. So you check with the insurers, and you also ensure that you have your existing policies or covers, your policy covers, say, business interruption insurance. As a result of the SARS 2002 SARS outbreak, many policies now, at least here in the UK and other parts of the world, like in India and other places, do not include or have expunged or has removed covers arising from outbreaks of diseases, epidemics and pandemics. So please do ensure or check with your brokers if you're covered for this. And it's also recommended that you keep a risk register, so you update the risk, and also you get advice from insurers to make sure that you're covered for all the necessary risks that do arise or that may arise. And also, you also evaluate the current status of the projects. Measures may also be adapted to how the parties will work together. So key project personnel for all parties involved should be engaged in assessment of the program and the possible delays and the costs of the suspension. Keeping up-to-date records. It's very important to keep up-to-date records at this particular time of the schedule, scope, cost, and any mitigation measures that might be required moving forward. Also, your supply chain. During the closure, you need ongoing communication with your key subcontractors and suppliers and so on, because it's likely that after the long protracted break following the pandemic, a lot of your suppliers will fall insolvent, they'll be out of business. And when you resume, you'll find that they're no longer there. So you need to actually monitor and know this, your clients and the client or your employers and their parties all advised to examine and monitor the supply chain and assess and explore alternatives if there are disruptions where you're going to get supply of these materials if the people you plan to originally procure this material or your subcontractors go out of business. So you have to be prepared in advance. So when the sites reopen, you actually know what you need to be doing. So you have also contingencies regarding mobilization and immobilization and remobilization. So this has cost implications of when you demobilize and reopen the sites. This have cost implications you need to start thinking about now and be prepared. Preparedness is the key word. So the conclusion in terms of advice, it's a short presentation. So the conclusion in terms of advice is the commercial, legal, and economic implication of COVID-19 is unprecedented, and it has a global economic effect, and this will be felt for some time. But we do hope and pray that the inevitable, the slowdown will not take too long before we can resume normal duties in our industry. Consultants should continue to seek to work, to tender for projects. So don't stop looking for work, tender for projects, carry on with your design work, and carry on doing all the works you could do off-site remotely. If you do any contracts, you let the client know that, okay, we shall do all the works, preparation, designs, and so on we could do from home, and both private and public sector. And then you target to start work when the sites reopen, once the crisis is over. So now quickly move on to the second phase of my presentation, which is looking at how the design of cities and how we might fight pandemics, how this might be used as a weapon to fight pandemics, the redesign of cities moving forward. So we're quickly going to review this. Now, a little background. Throughout history, disease and outbreaks have forced a lot of changes in urban designs, as was in the 1800s with the cholera epidemic. For example, this made it necessary for planning and plumbing and sewage systems to be designed in different zones. New laws came into place to prevent overcrowding and to prevent diseases and infections. So we had laws to deal with this. There is also an interesting discussion right now, Lexim, happening just now with the increase on how we can fight chronic diseases through the way we design, build cities in the future. So this is going to impact on the way we do design. And in my opinion, within the next couple of months, there's likely going to be significant discussions ongoing on how there will be fundamental changes in the way we think about designing our cities. This might include, of course, creating houses that can quickly be adapted for different uses in case of a pandemic or other similar disasters. They will also be looking at redesigning public spaces so that they can also work as logistic and treatment areas in cities for epidemics like COVID-19, SARS, Ebola, and so on. And studying how the urban design affects current outbreaks. For instance, evaluating the spread of COVID-19 epidemic and tying this with the physical design of cities, which includes overcrowding, population density, and how the design of cities, we study how the design of cities could have prevented or have accelerated the spread of the pandemic, the virus. Another strategy in the way we do our designs to guide against or to fight or to be a weapon to fight this is what we call the virus-free transit. We'll be looking at providing better designs, could also help to reduce crowds where the virus could easily spread. For instance, in airports, for example, security screening, like you can see in the pictures at the bottom of the screen here, at the bottom middle of the screen, you can see the very, very crowded. So we need to upgrade airports so that they will be designed to increase security lanes, as you see on the right, to my right here. Increase security lanes to reduce pinch points in passenger flow. This, along with automated screening lanes, would reduce passenger waiting times and encourage and discourage sort of person-to-person contact or reduce person-to-person contact. So, so how buildings could be used as to combat future pandemics and infections. Also include situations where there will be increase in statutory requirements and legal requirements for air quality and air handling in buildings, This is understandable because approximately 90% of the time we spend indoors. So mechanical ventilation and energy recovery system will become increasingly important. And also new technology is going to play a key role here, such as enabling more effective, more cost-effective clean air supply management in interior spaces. For instance, we've got new technologies such as the UVC light, which can eliminate viruses in treatment systems, in air treatment and handling systems, and which can also be simulated in making equipment last longer. Also, bringing fresh air into the buildings will become increasingly important. Continuous supply of air to minimize the occupants' exposure to diseases. Future technologies will also enable advanced air handling systems. Sensors will be produced to detect viruses in real time on surfaces and also warn building occupants of this thing, and also trigger clean air. There'll also be changes in hospital design to reduce the outbreak of infections. There are going to be negative pressure zones as well, and the hospital rooms will be designed in such a way that can easily be transformed to critical IC units. So when patients become critically ill, the rooms can easily be changed into intensive care units. Hospital clinics can also include purpose-built telehealth centers to make it easier for doctors to treat patients remotely and avoid the spread of the virus. So parks as well play key roles. Clean parks to clean air. It encourages people to exercise and have less underlying health problems. And this is going to play a key role in the future in the design of cities. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to the presentation. I do welcome any questions in the question and answer session. Thank you, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gyo. It was mind boggling to know how pandemics like COVID 19 can impact on our cities and how the future of planning will get affected from this.